So that last item was the rostering system, which was our key operational issue. We're moving now into the strategy section of the agenda, which is a single item and a tremendously important one, which marks the end of the consultation period on the reconfiguration of first-line management. So we've covered this a couple of times in the board, most recently just to hear some issues. Within the context of a board meeting, we have subsequent to that had a seminar which took place on the 13th of September to give an opportunity for the board to really hear what staff had to say and to make sure that the board was fully prepared for the decision it has to make today. So I know there are a number of people who want to speak on this. I want to remind people that this is the end of a process in which I believe very full consideration has been given to the key issues, and we've had a lot of opportunity to hear from both on the management side and on the staff side how people are feeling about the recommendations, what their responses are. So I'm hoping that today we will consider ourselves to be in a position where we've had all the inputs that we need and we're able to make a well-considered and reflective recommendation, to consider the recommendation, which I know is well considered, and that we're in a position to make a decision. So, Nick, I believe you've negotiated yourself, using your Chief Executive's prerogative, into the position to introduce this.
I will just make a very few remarks, if I may, and then hand over to others. I just wanted to really reiterate something that I put into an email to all staff yesterday about what we're trying to do. Ultimately, of course, what we are trying to do is to improve the quality of the service and our position in being able to provide it. And that's what's driving us. What we're trying to do is to create an environment and a management system that will support staff to achieve of their best. And when you actually just describe in very simple terms what these proposals will mean, it means that staff will feel part of a multidisciplinary team, able to call on colleagues who they work with on a day-to-day or night-by-night basis, who are drawn from a variety of different disciplines. That in itself is supportive. That they will have a team manager who works alongside them and does the same shifts as them, with the intention that that team manager, that's their sole job, is to look after and manage the team. And when you actually then say, well, how is it that we don't have these things now? And when you actually question it in that way, rather than when you question it in that way, you understand, I think, that what we're trying to put in place here is a very supportive system for staff to enable us to provide the service for patients. And that, I just wanted to get across, is what is driving these proposals. So at that point, I will pause to see if there's any comments before I hand over to Roger.
I think, Trevor, you had a particular question you wanted to ask.
Yeah. First of all, I'd just like to echo what you said, John, about the opportunity non-executive directors have had to engage with both the executive and, even more importantly, with staff and staff organisations over the last month or so. I found that particularly helpful to really understand what's been happening. And I must say, when I say that, I found staff to be very, very mature in terms of how they've contributed to that debate. So that's been very helpful to us, I think. When I read the report, particularly around the reasons the work was being done, it tended to focus around effectiveness, efficiency, structure with the new divisions, reducing management costs. But there wasn't much in the report we've got around how the changes will affect the patient experience. So I just wondered whether, to start the discussion off, the clinical director could help us understand how these changes will make the service better for patients. It's Nick's introduction about the whole issue is about quality.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start by saying that I wholeheartedly endorse the comment by the Chief Exec, this is about improving quality, but it is about improving quality of a clinical service in probably one of the most financially challenging environments that we've had to face for many years. And I think both patients and nurses and clinicians alike would understand that it's important for NHS Direct to be able to still provide those services and improve the quality, but also exist in an environment where we're unable to carry on doing those. So there is a genuine recognition between, I think, patients, members and the users of NHS Direct that we do need to exist. We are really valuable to them, but the nurses and the clinicians understand we need to change. We need to do some things differently in order to continue to exist and be there for patients. So I guess I'd answer that in three ways. If you ask me why or how these changes would make a difference for patients, one of our continuing strategic aims is to spend more time with patients, to have clinicians and nurses available for longer periods of time to spend more time with patients. So what the reconfiguration will allow us to do is to channel the precious resource that is nurses and clinicians into being able to spend more time with patients, and also doing more of the clinical governance activity that creates a safe environment in which we deliver clinical services. So we are looking for an increased percentage of time with patients during this, and as a result of these proposals, and we're also looking for the clinicians and the nurses involved to be able to spend more of their precious time looking at clinical governance issues such as adverse incidents, complaints and feedback, and being able to support, importantly, being able to support their non-clinical colleagues in offering services for the future. And that's my second point. In changing and doing things differently, we have to prepare for an environment in which the patients will receive clinical assessment differently in 111. We'll be in an environment where patients will want to receive information from different platforms, from the web and from other emerging technology. So in order to do that, in order to meet patient demand and to get a better user experience, I need to be able to divert the clinical resources to where they'll best have impact, which is supporting patients, supporting the content written for patients, and being able to supervise some of the non-clinical staff and being able to offer safe and effective services. And I guess the other area is that I also do need to channel some clinical and nursing resource into what you might see as the back office type stuff, which is the creation of that clinical content for health research and checkers, the creation of clinical content to help health information and dental staff be able to manage clinical calls and clinical assessment. So I have a finite resource and I have big challenges to face, and I need to do that for the patient's benefit to keep the service safe and of a good standard, of high quality, and I need to be able to use the nurses and clinicians to support me doing that. So all in all, it's all about the patient, it's all about keeping it high quality, safe, and being able to do things differently.
Thank you, Helen. Roger.
The board colleagues have received a huge amount of information around this. So you have the final outcomes paper, which is the most important paper here, but you have got a series of annexes which I hope, if you've read them, give you a very good idea of the work that's gone in to the consultation of the last 3 months. And then finally, we also sent you the presentation that the full-time officer from the Royal College of Nursing gave at the board seminar, if you weren't there. Now, what I've prepared for today is responses to the 15 or 16 major challenges that either the Royal College of Nursing or Unison or staff colleagues or indeed board colleagues have made. That would be a sort of 7 or 8 minute presentation from me. If the board wants to receive that, then I'm very happy to, or we can take questions. I don't know how the board would want to.
I mean, it's in the paper, Roger. I think is there a middle way there where you can just do top line?
Yes, I do think it's worth rehearsing with board colleagues what the principal challenges have been. I will answer each of them very briefly in that case. And if you want me to elaborate, then I'm very happy to do that. Is that?
Yeah. Why don't you do it? Just go through it as succinctly as you can.
Okay.
And then we can pick up any that we particularly want to.
Okay. Well, the first was why we haven't reached a lot more common ground on some of the principal issues, and I think it's worth reminding the board that we've just had a staff consultation, not a negotiation, and that a huge amount of work goes into an original proposal before it comes to the board in the first place. But having said that, we have listened very hard to what staff colleagues, staff side representatives and others have been saying to us, and we have made a significant number of changes from the original proposal. For example, we have changed the title of the clinical support nurse to clinical lead. We've increased the number of clinical leads from 54 to 63. We removed the capacity and performance advisor posts from this paper. We've revised the operation of the clinical 08 Hunt group, and we will affiliate clinical leads to specific team managers. Those are all in response to very specific challenges that were made.
I think that's fine, Roger.
Okay.
That's fine. I think that's critically what we wanted to hear. So we spent a lot of time looking at the proposal. We've heard a lot of what the staff had to say, and then what we really wanted to know was what sort of things are we being presented with that are different from what we originally saw, and that's
Okay.
fine. And we've had the detail in the paper. So I'm going to stop you there. I know that you're going to be able to pick up in much greater detail anything that the board feels particularly strongly about and wants to ask you more about the rationale for or about the detail. Do we have any particular questions?